All right, it's 9 o'clock on this Friday night. You heard the music. You know what that means. It means it's time for the live zone prime time. I'm producer Chris. Thank you so much to everyone who is joining us on this Friday night, whether you're watching on Fox 5 DC's YouTube page or you're watching on Fox Local. Of course, I can't do this alone. I can't wrap this week up alone. I've got to bring in my partner in crime, as always, once again, live from the motherland, the one and only Tony P. But this is the end of the journey, Tony P.
The end of the line.
The end of the line, because, and so in your honor, I want to see if this works. I can't make any promises.
Oh, all right.
But let's see. I'm going to try it out. All right. It didn't work. I was hoping it was going to work. Let's see. No, not going to work. Let me see.
No. Oh.
I don't care about the sunshine, yeah. 'Cause mama, I'm coming home.
Oh, you hit that really beautifully there, I wonder, have you been at some lip sync performances before? Because that looked very experienced.
I haven't, Tony, and I appreciate that. And I could never, ever do justice to Ozzy. So, but you know, it's a Friday night, so why not?
The man rest in peace. And I'll tell you, you are the
in
greatest ego boost in my life. I want you to know that. Besides my mother, you are truly my greatest ego boost with that wonderful lead-in that you've done this entire week. You can't do it without me. I think you can, but no.
I don't want to find out. I don't want to find out.
No, not saying it like that at all. I'm just, trying to be a little humble here on this Friday.
Well, I appreciate it.
About life is being humble.
So I was scrolling through your Instagram today, and I saw this.
Oh yes, today. And sadly, because wrong one. Oh, there we go. That was the. So I got to see the Coliseum, my friends. It was the first time I've ever actually, been to anything like this. And I didn't put a ton up today because of the time difference. I just had a lot going on the final day, but I will be putting a lot of those pictures up tomorrow morning and beyond. But we saw the Coliseum, the ancient Rome city-state, and all the buildings that are still in ruin but are being archaeologically enhanced, and the digs are still going on. And then we also went to a really cool meeting with the EU delegation here in Italy, talking about foreign policy stuff. My Achilles heel in anything academic is foreign policies. I've learned a lot this week from the EU meetings in Brussels to here in Italy. And then finally, we actually went to a signing of the U.S. And Italy it's about a 25-year program now where they have the FBI and the counterpart for culture and ministry and the FBI here in Italy, where they collaborate on stolen antique artwork.
Oh, interesting.
Italian artwork that's stolen on U.S. soil that gets into like Sotheby's and these different auction houses, as well as the museums like the Met. So a lot of they had these exhibits in this beautiful old hall where they had different sets of paintings and antiques and bowls and these little figurines that were stolen, that over the years for illegal digs, things of that nature, and ended up in the hands of museums and art collectors. And now they're all brought back because of that collaboration over 25 years. And they just signed their sixth extension that will go through the next 5 years. So really cool stuff between the U.S. and Italy. Talking about, true crime stuff. I saw it up and close today.
We know a lot of people into that. Tony, the only, and listen, there is no negative to this amazing trip that you have been on. But the one thing that you missed is the first Fox 5 snow day of the year. Take a look.
Oh, okay.
Take a look. That was some of the video. Those are some of the Fox 5 sky cams a little earlier today. That was our view all across the DMV. And, just like Mike Thomas predicted last night, most of us woke up to winter weather this morning. While wrapped up by around 1 this afternoon, the cold weather, that's not going anywhere anytime soon. And that means we could see some slick conditions out there tonight. So if you are hitting the road, just a heads up. There were also some slick roads in the surrounding areas, and there was also a little bit of drama because Montgomery County schools chose to stay open as scheduled, but at the same time, not too far away, despite similar conditions in both counties, Prince George's County Public Schools made the call to close. So there were apparently dozens of crashes in Montgomery County this morning. A few of them even involved school buses, though there were no serious injuries. Still, some Montgomery County Public School parents that talked to Fox 5 say they wish the school district had kept kids at home like Prince George's County did. Take a listen.
Well, look at safety. You got to look at safety issues. I'm in the healthcare field, so we look at everything from the perspective of safety. So you have people who are timid, they're driving, they may not be as capable in this type of weather, even though it's not a lot of snow. So you're putting the school bus at risk for people who are frightened or a little hesitant to drive in this weather. Why put your kids at risk? It's just one day. It's just one day. Yes, it's an inconvenience to parents, but I'd rather it be an inconvenience than a coffin.
Yeah. So, Tony, obviously that decision especially surprising for some parents after Montgomery County schools had a 2-hour delay on Tuesday, a decision that they later apologized for.
Yeah, I mean, these type of decisions, I've known some superintendents back home for life in Boston, and they've always said it's a very tough decision when it's a situation like this with the timing of a storm and the potential slickness, and there's not a huge number for snow, right? We've had this happen before.
Yeah.
And it's the toughest decision because you can't really win. Because if you open it up and things aren't really that bad, you get criticized.
That's exactly it.
If you close. And then if you open up and things like this happen, accidents and whatever, there's a lot of anger and outcry about that. I think a lot of superintendents, I'm just guessing, that they are focusing on trying to keep the schools open as much as they can because of what happened last year, where we had a few weeks where there was 2-3 days of each week off of school, and there was a lot of outcry from parents in the D.C. area, as well as DMV, Prince George's County, Montgomery County, things of that nature. So I think it might be a little bit of an overcorrection at the beginning just to kind of see what things are like, how are the reactions, what is the weather looking like overall in terms of pattern, and how many storms are we going to get before the holidays. But at the same time, you do have to think about the safety. And as much as I, sometimes think, oh, we're a little bit we coddle kids too much.
We do talk about that a lot here.
We do, but you know what? Like, again, the viewer was talking about, you don't want this to be a coffin. And that kind of really hit with me because you know what? It is one day. And sometimes, 6 inches of snow can be a lot easier than a half an inch of rain that freezes over, or sludge, or light snow. So I think just we're getting our feel for it. Luckily, everything was okay for the most part. But I think just it's a tough decision. And these superintendents are in a tough position. And they look at the weather and they have to make a call.
This debate again. That's not the only S word. The snow, that's not the only S word we talked about today, though, because the other major story all across the DMV was soccer, because it was World Cup draw day here in the nation's capital. The stage officially set for next summer's World Cup. Today, the nation's capital hosted the star-studded draw, where the qualifying teams found out which groups they will be in and which teams they will face. You see some of the stars right there. Aaron Judge, New York Yankees stud. There are 12 groups of 4. As a host country, Team USA was already seeded, reducing their chances of going up against the top team in the first round. They'll start the tournament by facing off against Paraguay, a team that hasn't qualified for the World Cup in 15 years. They'll also face Australia and the winner of a European tournament, which includes Turkey and Slovakia. Now, standout teams Argentina, Portugal, Spain also lucked out in the draw, and they should sail to the knockout round. As for the actual draw, like I mentioned, star-studded. You see some of those stars. Event was hosted by Kevin Hart and Heidi Klum. President Trump, who helped win the bid to host the World Cup, watched it all unfold. You saw the dance right there. There's the village people. I did. He watched it all unfold inside the Kennedy Center, says preparations have gone perfectly. So, Tony, we want to talk much more about this. And to do that, what comes next? We turn to sports journalist and global football expert. Her name is Semra Hunter. She's in town covering today's event for FIFA's official podcast, and she joins us now live. Thank you so much for staying up with us. Oh, sorry. Stand by. Here I come. Let's try it again. Can you hear us now?
I can. Can you hear me?
All right. We can hear you. All right. So first of all, first and foremost, what was it like at today's event?
Very cold to start with, let me tell you.
Understandable.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm from Los Angeles originally, so I'm all about sunshine. I'm all about warmth. I'm all about beach weather. This morning, I woke up and I saw the snow falling. I was like, beautiful, but I don't really feel like going outside. But we ended up standing in line for an hour and a half. We were there, I think, at like 8 a.m. to get through security. It just took absolutely forever. So it was freezing cold to get in, but it was really cool in the sense that you really could feel that this was a proper world event. You had media from all across the globe. It was just packed to the rafters in terms of how many people showed up for this. We're talking about probably hundreds of different broadcasters from every single corner of the earth. And there was so much excitement, anticipation. Everybody was eager to see what nations were going to be drawn in their group, who they were going to be facing, because of course so many of these broadcasters are football mad fanatics, right? They love this sport, they breathe this sport, and they're fans of the sport, as well as being professionals working in the medium. So it was a lot of fun. The draw itself was quite long. It ran over 2 hours. It had glitz, it had glam, you had entertainment, you had performances, you had all kinds of stuff and things that you've already alluded to as well. But I think the main point is that we were all just really happy that it's finally come together. In a sense, we've raised the curtain because now it really does feel real. It feels as though finally the countdown is on. And I think it's like 188 days until we finally get going with the first match. And we're all just really excited.
Now, from the draw, that really long draw that lasted a few hours there, what were some of the headlines or main takeaways that the writers took from the seeding and potential matchups and the strengths of these teams against each other, as well as, does the draw seem to be, particularly special compared to previous years in terms of the matchups, or is it just kind of business as usual?
I would say it's special in the sense that this is the first time we're having an expanded World Cup. So we've gone from 32 teams to 48. So we have 16 more nations involved at this stage, and we have 40 more matches. So before it was 64, now it's 104. So you won't be bored, I can promise you that.
Oh, no.
There's a lot of really interesting storylines. I think the one that has really captivated most football fans is Group I, which I'm sure we'll get to. It's being touted as the group of death, and for very good reason. You have France, you have Senegal, you have Norway, who are back at a World Cup finals for the first time in 28 years. And of course, it's all about the matchup between Kylian Mbappe and Erling Haaland. I think the best way I can describe this for American viewers is imagine, for example, I don't know, let's say Patrick Mahomes versus Tom Brady in their prime. If they were to go up against one another, we're talking about generational talents. Or I'm not great with basketball, but maybe LeBron versus MJ, and respectively in their primes as well. I mean, it doesn't get any bigger than these two guys whenever it comes to goal scorers. If you love goals, you have to watch France versus Norway. Kylian Mbappe, he's the reigning Golden Boot winner. He won, which is, of course, the prize for the person who scores the most goals in a World Cup. He scored 8 in Qatar 2022. A hat trick, by the way, in the finals against Argentina. And it's still not enough for them to win. Can you remember?
I do remember that. Oh, my God. What a record, though.
It's incredible. And last season, domestically, in Europe, we give out the European Shoe Award for the player who scores the most in any domestic league in Europe. He won that award. 31 times he scored with Real Madrid in La Liga. Erling Haaland is currently leading that race right now. He has 14 goals to his name. Mbappe has one less. And Erling Haaland in the national team with Norway, he scored 48 goals in 45 appearances. So we're talking about over a goal on average a game. So it doesn't get much bigger than that when it comes to these two. And I think everybody is kind of already chomping at the bit to see what it is that they're capable of doing, the damage they can do to each other's respective defenses. So that's certainly one matchup you don't want to miss. But you've got Morocco versus Brazil. Brazil, obviously, certainly now going through a bit of a transitional period. Carlo Ancelotti, who is one of the most successful and I think one of the best managers of all time, he's taken up the reins. He obviously worked with Vini, with Rodrigo, as well as Militao at Real Madrid for several years. So they're kind of, let's say, rebooting, if you will. But Morocco, they did so well in Qatar 2022. They made it to the semifinals. Quite honestly, they should have beaten France to get to the finals. They're a dark horse. Watch out for them as well. They're one of the strongest teams from Africa. So it's like there's so many things to talk about. There's so many matchups and there's so many great groups as well. But I would say for me, those are probably two aspects of this entire group stage that we should be keeping an eye out on.
Semra, let me ask you a question. Because this is going to be here in North America, there are going to be games played right here in the United States. Obviously, the United States has not had the reputation as being as big a fans of the sport as the rest of the global community. Do you think having all of these games right here in the United States will kind of propel this to even bigger heights here at home?
I hope so. I really do. I think this could be such a landmark moment for the sport and for the United States. And I think also, I mean, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I do really get a sense that now we're starting to see perhaps the first generation in this country that are growing up with football as their sport. They're not looking at it as a foreign sport anymore. I mean, when I grew up in the 90s, it was English Premier League, but that was kind of it. You didn't really have access to a lot of other foreign leagues, and the MLS was still kind of getting started. Even women's professional soccer was getting a bit was starting as well during the 90s. So, I mean, there was not really a lot going on at that time in terms of having access to global football. But now, of course, you can watch the Premier League, you can watch Bundesliga, you can watch La Liga, you can watch anything you want, Serie A. And I think a lot of people are growing up now taking part of the game in the way that many other nations do. And so I think there'll be a lot more fanfare, I think more enthusiasm, more passion from local fans. And obviously if the US men's national team does well, which in theory on paper, looking at their group, they should at very least get out of the group. And they have a very good chance, I think, of making all the way to the round of 16 at the very least, if they do manage to finish top of the group. But it really is a big moment, I think, for the national team and for Pochettino as well, who needs to prove himself at this level. Obviously, he's done very well in the club scene. He did really well with Spurs. He took them to a Champions League final in 2018, fell short at the last hurdle, but obviously he did really well with PSG too. He won 3 titles with them while he was in France. And I think he has done well so far with a fairly erratic US men's national team. There is certainly a ceiling there. There's certainly a gap to be closed. There's certainly plenty of talent, and they have potential to do so much better. But this really could be, I think quite a nice transitional moment, maybe a watershed moment for the sport culturally, and hopefully it will leave a wonderful legacy as well.
And when you look at the overall, just kind of the next few months as we head in about 120 days or so now until this entire thing kicks off, what do these teams do now in these next few months as they prepare? What does that look like? They kind of know who they're playing a lot, and they know their group dynamics. They can watch film. What does that look like the day-to-day on the ground for these teams as they get ready to take their shot at a title?
There'll be a tremendous amount of planning, and every one of the coaching staff and the backroom staff will have a different role to play. So you'll have somebody scouting the rival teams, the opponents, watching a lot of footage, trying to understand how they play, their philosophy, the style with which they play, who their strongest players are, the strengths, the weaknesses, all that kind of stuff. Then you'll have somebody else focusing on the logistics, because let's remember, this is an incredibly complex and layered tournament in the sense that the distances are massive. You have 3 nations, Canada, the United States, and Mexico. There's going to be so much logistical stuff that needs to be worked out in terms of where is the base camp going to be? How many flights do we need to do? How do we consider rest? How do we consider rotations to make sure everybody is fit, everybody is fresh, because there's more games as well. So there's a lot going on in that regard too. If you're the coach, if you're the head coach, you'll be watching your own players, you'll be following their club teams, you'll be seeing how they're doing domestically, and you'll start preparing your squad, seeing who you're going to be taking, who's available for selection, who isn't available for selection, working out your tactics, the style with which you want to play. Are you going to be going in the front foot? Are you going to be more receptive to your opponents? I mean, there's so much to consider here. And I think now it's go time. We hit the ground running, we get ready. This is real now. We're 6 months out. It goes very, very fast. And you also have to be a bit strategic about how you want to get out of the group stage, because the knockout rounds, depending on where you finish in the group, it could be kind to you or maybe not so kind.
Right. There's so many more teams this year, too. There's much more to contend with.
Semra, finally, my final question, and this one was obviously a big talker in our newsroom. President Trump kind of going on the record today saying it was time for USA to fall in line with the rest of the world and change the name of the game here at home from soccer to football, and it's time for American football to change its name to something else. Do you like that plan?
Oh, yeah, I saw that and I wasn't really sure what to think, if I'm really honest with you. What's funny is that soccer, even though the Brits and the English really hate that word, they invented that word.
Right.
And they're not really sure where it came from. They weren't there's kind of a lot of, let's say, urban legends as to the origin of the word, but they think it may have had something to do with association, the word association, and then getting shortened to soccer. So, what I don't know. I mean, yes, and in one sense, I'm kind of like, well, the whole world calls it football. I mean, it's the OG football, if you will. And if we want to kind of fall in line with everybody else, maybe that makes sense. But on the other side, there's a part of me, the American side of me, that's like, well, it's kind of nice having our own sports and referring to them the way that we always have. And if we want to call it football or American football, then that's fine. Maybe we just make that distinction between American football and European football. Personally, I don't know. I feel like soccer, football, it's interchangeable in some contexts. It's not that big of a deal. But you know what? If he wants to change it, then I guess maybe he'll put in a bid for that to happen.
Yeah,
but
we'll have to wait and see. We had somebody joke that when we adopt the metric system, maybe we'll change the name of the game.
Yeah, sure.
Exactly.
He'll face it on both sides. He'll face it on both sides.
Semra, if people want to follow along and learn more from you, how can they do it?
On social media, you can follow me on Instagram. So it's just my name, Semra Hunter. You can follow me on X, even though I don't really use it that much anymore, even LinkedIn, for example. And now, of course, with FIFA's official podcast, which is called the World Cup Show. So that's a show that I currently host, and we'll be bringing you the whole build-up starting from January all the way through to the tournament, and of course, throughout the tournament as well. So if you want all of the details, we're going to break everything down for you. Perfect. We'll go in depth, and that will be your one-stop shop for all things World Cup.
And hopefully we'll have you back on the Live Zone Primetime as we get a little closer to it. Thanks so much for spending some time with us. Enjoy the rest of your time, cold time, here in the DMV. All right, we're going to take a live look out at National Harbor from our Fox 5 Skycam. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Tony P is going to share what he's been watching. And then a little later, we're going to talk a little bit more about the World Cup from a sports management perspective. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the Live Zone Primetime on this Friday night. Tony, we made it till Friday. That is Literally
Yes,
the best news that I've heard yet. You're living in the future, though. It's already Sunday or Saturday where you are, right?
Saturday, so not one more day.
You're going to board an airplane, and so basically you're going to leave at X time, and you're going to arrive at what time?
So I'm going to leave here, so I'll go to bed for a few hours, get up around 7:30, 8 o'clock, leave at 8:30. We go to the airport. Our flight's around 11:15 out of Rome. And that is, so it's 11 o'clock this time. That is 5 a.m. We're back where you are, Chris, on the East Coast. And then we go for 10 hours and 25 minutes across the ocean blue. And then we head back in here to D.C. to Dulles Airport. Planning to arrive about 3:05 is the landing time. Again, the timing being here in, back home in the U.S., and that would be 9 o'clock at night here in Rome. So we're doing that all day. We're doing some work probably. We'll sleep hopefully 4 or 5 hours.
You're going to be so confused on Monday.
I know.
When you are in here with me. I'm going to have to like nudge you and wake you up every so often. But I mean it from the bottom of my heart. From the bottom of my heart, I appreciate you waking up in the middle of the night to join us and stay a part of this show. In the meantime, let's talk about what you were watching today in Italy besides the World Cup.
Yeah, so again, you know, it's funny when I'm in Rome, I get this like freedom to think, and I know the headlines, like they just come to me, you know what I mean? And I'll tell you, I have a few things for you tonight. So we start with a major case heading to the Supreme Court. The justices have agreed to take up President Trump's executive order that seeks to end birthright citizenship for children born in the U.S. Lower courts blocked the order originally as unconstitutional, saying the 14th Amendment is clear, and now the High Court will attempt or not attempt to overturn or affirm that ruling depending on how the court rules. And this could redefine how the U.S. Considers and defines a U.S. citizen. Over in the health world today, a federal vaccine advisory committee under Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. voted 8-3 to end the long-standing recommendation that all newborns automatically receive the hepatitis B shot at birth. We talked about this, I think, earlier this week, a few days ago when I was in Brussels. Only babies whose mothers are infected or whose status is unknown would be able to get it right away. Everyone else could delay until 2 months old or later. Public health experts are warning this could lead to preventable infections and confuse families over long-settled science, especially as those kids head into school age. Now, and also another front in the healthcare world as well, Speaker Mike Johnson and House Republicans are racing to unveil a new GOP healthcare plan early next week, of course, influenced by the shutdown debate over ACA subsidies. The question is going to be, will they enhance the expired subsidies? Will they renew them? Or will they do nothing at all? The Hill reports that many Republicans remain deeply divided on this. Some want a clean extension of the subsidies. Others insist on policy overhauls of the subsidies, including income caps and cutting premium-free plans. With only 10 legislative days left in the session here, Chris, and millions at risk of losing assistance, the pressure is mounting, and failure to act could mean insurance costs shoot upward for 2026. Now, legal transparency took a big step today as a federal judge in Florida ordered the unsealing of grand jury transcripts from the dormant Florida case for Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. A new law signed by President Trump restricted grand jury secrecy, so that triggered this lawsuit, and the Justice Department now has until December 19th to release the entire file. So these things are separate, but they're part of the same theme. After years of sealed testimony and speculation, we're about to get a rare window of how investigators built their case originally in Florida, not just at the federal level, but at the state level originally in Palm Beach County. Now turning to Ukraine, negotiators gathered in Miami for a new round of peace talks involving U.S. officials and senior Ukrainian leaders, including National Security Advisor Rustem Umerov and Military Chief of Staff Andriy Hintonov. The discussion centered on the latest U.S.-backed proposal, with both sides working through the most sensitive issue, territory. While no agreement was reached today, officials described the meeting as serious and substantive and said the door remains open if Russia signals it is ready to move towards a long-term settlement. We just had earlier this week the meetings with Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner in Russia as well. So these talks are heating up across the capitals from Brussels to the U.S. And in politics as well, President Trump is facing some of his weakest public support of the year. The latest numbers from the New York Times aggregation show his approval is sitting at 41% overall, while 55% of Americans say they disapprove, leaving him with a net negative rating of 14 points. Pollsters note that the slide has been steady over the past several weeks, driven by worries about the cost of living, questions about his foreign policy progress and processing, and growing fatigue with the administration's confrontational style. While his base remains firm, independents have moved sharply away from him, making this one of the widest gaps he has recorded with them since his second term began. In the business world, Netflix is shaking up Hollywood today with a massive new deal to acquire Warner Brothers Discovery Studios and streaming division for about $72 billion. If it goes through, Netflix would take over some of the biggest franchises in entertainment, from Harry Potter to DC, including The Sopranos as well. It's kind of just being a little personal for a second. Regulators are expected to take a long, hard look at this one, and there's a lot of backlash from the movie industry and unions and some support in Hollywood and abroad as well. We're also remembering Frank Gehry tonight, the visionary architect behind the Guggenheim Bilbao, the Walt Disney Concert Hall, and countless other iconic structures that died today at 96. His work didn't just shape the skylines, it changed the conversation on what buildings could be. I'll tell you, his architecture was fascinating. Again, it looks like the buildings were collapsing, but they were standing still, a true visionary. On the entertainment front, fans were delighted to see Jack Nicholson in a rare family photo with his children on social media, a moment that sparked a wave of nostalgia for one of Hollywood's most endearing legends. And finally, a trend that says a lot about where our culture might be headed, Chris. A new study found that Gen Z considers cash cringe, of course they use that word, with only about 12% preferring it over digital payments. Mobile wallets, peer-to-peer apps, and tap-to-pay have become second nature for us, of course. But physical money is not only inconvenient, it looks like it's becoming obsolete and really unpopular. So, I got to tell you, we keep using that word cringe. I can't stand it. And once again, Gen Z is wrong on this one. I think having some cash can be helpful. You can lower that burden of cost potentially in the right spaces. So I'll tell you, my friend, we got to get rid of this word cringe. Can we get that's my policy for 2026.
Tony,
I am on a crusade against cringe.
How often do you actually carry cash, out of curiosity?
I would say more than 12%. Especially here in
that was so specific.
In Italy and Brussels.
That was so specific.
I would say on this trip 50%. I have about I have about $100 in cash on me right now in U.S. and Euro dollars. Okay. So I would say I'm a very rich man. I'll tell you. Yeah. So I would say overall that I think for certain situations it's important because one, you never know when you're going to need it. So have a little bit of a cash reserve on you. If things happen with the credit card, you lose something, or your phone goes awry. And also, to be honest, when I'm out here in DC or major cities, I like to, someone needs, a meal or something or needs some money. I like to have the cash and not be that guy. It's like, I don't have any cash for you. So that's just kind of my thing.
100% agree on that last point as well. But if you're anything like me, and I know I'm not alone like this, because we're not like our parents' generation who was, balancing their checkbook and things like that. If I have taken cash out, by the time I actually getting around to spending it, it feels a little bit like play money. It's like, oh, this isn't coming out of my bank account because it's already in my hand. So I can just do whatever it's like, it doesn't feel real. And that's such a change of pace from previous generations.
It totally is. It's almost like you have two sets of math, right? My math in my head, I got extra money here. The money tree grew and I pulled it off the tree.
And if anyone
that's just same pot of money.
If anyone out there is watching, never take financial advice from me. So let me just be clear about that. I am the worst when it comes.
I love to spend.
My wife is in charge, and for good reason. Tony, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we are going to talk about football and the other kind of football. And this time we're going to talk about that World Cup draw, and we're going to talk about it from a sports management perspective. A George Washington professor is going to join us live as we head to break, though. We're going to take a little live look at some cameras from all across our region and beyond. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the Live Zone Primetime. Friday night, 9:36. The biggest story today here in D.C., besides the snow, of course, was the World Cup draw day. Joining us now with more on how that went down and from a sports management perspective, we want to bring in George Washington University professor Lisa Delpy-Narati. She's the director of MS in Sport Management program, works with a sport event organizations, and served as a host committee member of the 1994 Washington, D.C. Host Committee. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us here tonight on the Live Zone Primetime.
Great. Thank you for having me.
So, from a sports management perspective, what did you make of today's draw event? Tony and I talked to the former president of U.S. Soccer yesterday, and he talked about how the 1994 draw event was the first, spectacle. And today, obviously, a star-studded event at the Kennedy Center.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to use star-studded event. As Infantino said, we are in America. We need to make it a show. And it was, starting off with Bocelli doing a beautiful, performance. And then you had non-football players, the best of the best, Gretzky, Brady, Shaq, and Aaron Judd. So, you just had a wide range of different stars popping in and out throughout the 2 hours.
When you look at the overall process that goes from now until these events kick off in 3 different countries here in North America, from a management perspective, what does it look like on the ground? Who's involved in these proceedings to make sure everything goes off without a hitch? Because these are some complex things that are going to be happening in the next 6 months.
So unlike an Olympic Games and previous World Cups, FIFA has really taken charge, and they have an office in Miami with 500 people. They're hiring FIFA workers to go and manage the events in these different cities. So and there is a local host committee in each one of these cities, but those committees are more for the fan fest, making sure the city is prepared to welcome all the guests, but not so much of managing it in the stadiums.
So Lisa, since you're a professor, I figured I would ask you, if you were grading how this has gone so far, what would you give it?
I mean, I think today's event went extremely well. So I would say, the security lines were very long and it was really cold. So I think that was that was a challenge, but we knew with the heads of state being there from Mexico, Canada, and US, that security was going to be long. And I don't think it would have been as difficult a situation for many if it wasn't as cold, which nobody was expecting to have snow in DC this morning.
Absolutely. Now, in terms of the overall process of this, what are some of the contingencies that the teams are preparing for in terms of the FIFA World Cup and these different local boards? And what are some of the risks that they're going to be looking out for in the coming months to make sure that they can get ahead of, so that there isn't, a bad issue or an image problem that comes out of it?
Right. Well, tomorrow we'll know which teams go to which locations, which host cities. And they've been preparing for months on the security. So every major event in the United States is a national security event. So that means that all the federal agencies work together, coordinate from CIA, FBI, and they also coordinate with the other countries' intelligence forces. So we know who's coming in, what to be concerned about. And there's 3 rings of security at these major events. So for months, they've been planning out where those rings are going to be around the venues.
And when you look at overall in terms of the marketing side of this, right, like getting people engaged in this, because again, we see social media now, things have changed since the last time the U.S. has hosted a World Cup in terms of marketing, you have social media, you have TV, you have streaming. What do you think is going to be the strategy that FIFA and U.S. Soccer is going to use to really get the message out there leading up to the games, as well as throughout the couple weeks that these games are happening, to keep people engaged at the beginning, as well as keep them on throughout the matches?
Well, number one of the biggest promoters of the World Cup are the sponsors. I mean, they've already sunk a lot of money in for just the naming rights. And so then they have to activate. So you're going to see a lot of commercials, Adidas, Bank of America, having images around the World Cup. Social media will always obviously be huge. I know FIFA has their team with multiple languages, and each of the host cities is going to maximize, because bringing fans to their city is what they're expecting, right? That's where they're banking on having many tourists spend money in their city on hotels and food and entertainment. And also, like, even DC is looking, how can we leverage, even though we don't have a tournament, how can we bring people from Philly who are coming in, or even New York, down to Washington, D.C. In Mexico, Monterrey is using this as a way to build its brand. Who knew Monterrey? You knew Guadalajara, Mexico City, but it's an opportunity for Monterrey. And they're also trying to say, hey, while you're in Mexico, go to Puerto Vallarta. So, every country is using this in a different way.
If you were to give any advice to the team, right, to the whole team of people here that you've served as part of the local board, what would be that piece of advice to make sure that things run smoothly throughout?
Over my 6 World Cups that I've been involved with and 22 Olympic Games, I always say volunteers are so essential. And, those volunteers that were there today and I've seen before, the smiles, the welcoming, and then signage, making sure people know where to go. With these 3 rings of security and things blocked off, it gets a little frustrating. It's not the same way you go into the Eagles Stadium, for example, or another NFL. There are going to be a little bit changes, and people are going to have to learn to, how it works for a mega event.
Lisa, from a teaching perspective, how valuable is it to have such a major event right here at home, and also an Olympics here at home right afterwards?
Oh, it's invaluable. I mean, my students were there volunteering at the draw today. They were volunteering at the Club World Cup. I'm taking 28 students to Milan to volunteer over at the Olympic Games. So, we not only teach them in the classroom, but we need to make sure that they execute it and understand how it works in practice.
All right. Lisa Delpy Narati from George Washington University, thank you so much for sharing a little bit of your insight and expertise with us here on the Live Zone Primetime tonight.
Thank you.
All right, Tony, we want to get to some breaking news now. This is happening in Northeast DC. That is where a man was shot inside of a residence. This is happening near Union Market. So, Tony, I know you're familiar with this area, so I want to give you a little perspective of where this is going down right now. This is the 300 block of Morse Street Northeast. This happened around 8:10 this evening. The man was pronounced dead on the scene, so this is a homicide investigation. Right now, there is a lookout for 4 to 5 suspects who fled the building on foot. This information coming to us from our assignment desk, our assignment editor, Allison Papson. Right now, you see the heavy police presence out there. And I mean, Tony, this is one of the busiest areas in the city.
Yeah, and again, there's a lot of new restaurants that are popping up. There's these new bars and rooftops that are still being in use, even though it's a little colder out there now. This is shocking. Because again, in my time down there, I'm down there a few times a month, and again, I haven't heard much in the news that we've been covering of any violence taking place in the apartments or any of the stores down in Union Markets. This is very, very surprising to see. I know that there, with some of the National Guard presence in the last few months, there has been some increased presence at the station the Red Line station that borders the Union Market, and you walk about a half a mile to get there. So maybe this was an area that was, on alert for just to make sure people were aware of things. And obviously something, really, really tragic happened tonight. And, again, we don't know too many details yet, don't want to get ahead of the investigation. But, it'd be interesting to know the backstory behind this and, what caused this. Was it a random situation, or was it, something more internal?
On top of that, obviously. But for anyone who is familiar with the area, obviously, this is kind of that corner between New York Avenue inbound to Washington, D.C.,
right.
Florida Avenue northeast. Obviously, the Metro Red Line right nearby as well. You can see one of the names of those restaurants in kind of the center of the screen right there. So a very crowded area. We'll stay on top of this story. We'll keep an eye on this live picture. We'll have much more on this coming up on Fox 5 News at 10 at the top of the hour. In the meantime, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, that story we promised you we would talk about yesterday, Tony P. You remember the one.
Yes.
You remember the one, okay? So we're going to end this Friday, hopefully, on a lighter note. We're going to talk some of the best and worst Christmas songs. In the meantime, we're going to take a quick break, Tony P. We'll chat on the other side.
Ooh.
All right, welcome back to the Live Zone Primetime on this Friday, December 5th, the last 10 minutes of the show. Tony live in Italy, producer Chris here in studio. We talked about this last night a little bit, Tony P. We wanted to get into it a little bit. I know you have probably made the switch. We talked about our Spotify lists earlier this week.
Yes, we did. We went really deep into that, too.
We did, and we didn't touch on Christmas music yet. I have officially made the switch as of today. I just started listening to one of my go-to Christmas playlists.
December 5th?
I know. I was a little behind. I haven't actually.
Wow.
I haven't put in the earbuds and actually listened to anything in a hot minute, if I'm being honest with you. But yesterday, USA Today put out its list of 50 best and 10 worst Christmas songs, definitively ranked. And, I thought that was a little cocky of them to sit there and say that they are the arbitrators of what is the best and the worst. But to be honest with you, that's what we love to do. We rage bait.
Yeah, they always do. I mean, again, they always have done this. So it isn't like, again, they do it across the board when it comes to entertainment. So this is kind of this is par for the course.
Yes, that is so true. So we're going to start off with the best. And we're going to go from 5 to 1. We don't have time to get into all 50, but Number 5, Peace on Earth and the Little Drummer Boy by Bing Crosby and David Bowie. Thoughts?
I like, again, some of the mixes that came together in the 70s and 80s with some of the classic stuff from like the Bing Crosbys of the world, the Andy Williams. Yes, I love that because it's a good cross between, it was modern, but you still kept the overall nature of the song. Good choice.
All right, number 4, Tennessee Christmas by Amy Grant.
Haven't exactly heard of it before.
I didn't know that one either. I'll be honest with you. I'm gonna have to go look it up.
I have nothing for you. I mean, how about hold TBD?
Yeah. All right. So number 3, since we don't know that one, Last Christmas by Wham.
Oh God, okay. Before 2 years ago, when it was going really viral all the time, and every influencer puts that song in their Christmas content, I was the biggest fan of that song because I love 80s Christmas.
Yeah.
I just think it's wonderful. I have old videos from when my family did it in the 80s and 90s. I love it all. That era was great. But ever since that
it's on your nerves a little bit, isn't it?
Social media, it's like nails.
Nails on a chalkboard.
At this
get
point.
it.
And so bad for Wham because they're a great band. George Michael, may he rest in peace.
There's a whole movie that's kind of based there. I think it's called Last Christmas, and it's based around the music of George Michael as well. Anyway, this was a little bit of a shock, Tony P, but coming in at number 2, we are going to play for you now.
Another one.
A little surprised, if I'm being honest with you. She's the queen of Christmas. I thought it would be number 1.
She is. I mean, that song hits number 1 every single year at this time. So I think just technically it's a bad rating. I think it should be at least number 2, if not number 1.
Well, it was number 2, so that means number 1.
Number 2, sorry. My bad.
That means, Tony, it's almost 4 in the morning there. You can be forgiven.
I can't count. I can't count.
Here's number 1.
Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart be light. Next year
Tony P, are there tears? Are there tears?
No tears of anger. That is a horrible rating for that song. Okay, first of all, Frank Sinatra's version is better, in my opinion.
Interesting hot take.
Two, where is Nat King Cole, the Christmas song?
Thank you.
Like, when I think of Christmas, that's the quintessential tune that I go to every single time when that clock hits November 1 or November 15th, whatever the heck I did this year. Or December, that's the song that my grandmother used to play every single year, the Nat King Cole song. What about White Christmas? Like, what about that? What about John Williams' wonderful scores from the countless movies he's done at the holidays? I would put that above Judy Garland's song before that. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, again, I love Judy Garland, but I mean, her songs Wizard of Oz were legendary, but this one ain't it.
All right. Down to the final 5 minutes. Now we got to talk about the worst. Coming in at number 5. Coming in at number 5. And I actually had to look this one up one time because I saw a previous list and this one was on there too. Funky Funky Christmas by the New Kids on the Block.
I think it's a bad rating because I am from Boston. I love the New Kids on the Block.
Yeah, you got it.
I mean, I think I just wish I was born in that time so I could have actually experienced some of that. But that's what was playing when Home Alone was coming out. So kind of to tie two things together there.
Number 4, The Little Drummer Boy, but it's the version. It's not the song, it's the version. Jessica and Ashley Simpson. Now, this is where I it's not a terrible song. It's not the best song, but it's these individual versions that give it a bad rap. But on the other hand, it made the best list too because you had it as part of that David Bowie, Bing Crosby version.
Right. So, I mean, again, it just depends on who's doing it. I think some people do the Christmas albums for a cash grab.
Yeah,
and it looks
they
like
definitely do.
This song, it was a cash grab. So, absolutely correct on that rating.
Number 3, The Christmas Shoes by New Song. Now, The Christmas Shoes should be number 1. The worst song, the worst Christmas song of all time. I stand by that. It's terrible.
It's the Geely. It's the Geely of Christmas songs. Now, if you don't know what Geely is, folks, that's a movie with I think it was Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez. Garbage, and that song is garbage too. So, I mean, I really have no edits for this. Again, with the choices, I have some options that could be added.
Yeah. Okay. Number 2. Grandma got run over by a reindeer. Elmo and
there
Patsy.
You go.
Now that's not Elmo.
There
Sesame
we go.
Street Elmo. That's but that's on there too. Number 2.
Grandma got run over by a reindeer. It's what's the word? It's really memorable because it's so bad.
For all the wrong reasons.
So it's like watching Grown Ups too. It's so bad it's good.
In case you
were
wondering,
so you listen to it for that reason.
The Dominic the Christmas Donkey, that's on there too. That was number 6. But that's another one of those kitschy,
are you kidding
kitschy
me?
crap songs. All right, that brings us to number 1.
That's anti-Italian. That's anti-Italian.
Yeah, don't let everyone hear that over there. All right, that brings us to number 1, the worst Christmas song of all time. Are you ready?
I'm ready, sir. The Chipmunks. What?
Alvin and the Chipmunks. The Chipmunk song. The worst Christmas song. What did I do there? The worst Christmas song of all time. Christmas, Don't Be Late. Tony P, do you agree or disagree?
Are you kidding me? I mean, that's a classic
It
song.
is a classic. Thank you.
It's cute. It's cute. I mean, come on. The kids love it. It was pretty good in the Alvin and the Chipmunks movie. So you know what? Was it Jason Lee was in that movie? So you know what? I liked that. I think the Chipmunks are adorable. It's the holiday season. There's acorns around and snow and perfect weather for chipmunks. I think it makes sense. So yeah, I mean, not the rating. I think the song makes sense. It's a decent song. I think it's catchy. I say this is a horrible rating. If anything, it should be maybe 15 or 20 if you're gonna go that route. But I mean, again, that song is it's harmless.
I agree. So in terms of, my Christmas playlist, and I'd be curious if we wanted to do a little swap sometime just for fun, just so we could see.
We should maybe next week.
What is on each other's. So obviously, Neil Diamond did have a Christmas album, and
he had two.
You Make It Feel Like Christmas is on every Christmas playlist that I own. For the record, U2's version of the Darlene Love classic, Christmas, Baby Please Come Home, I think is mandatory listening.
Yep.
A lot of people love it, but Fairy Tale of New York by the Pogues, that one, it contains some salty language, but it's a classic. I really like, have you ever heard, do you remember there were those albums in the 90s that had artists like Tom Petty doing Christmas, what is it? I don't remember. You know the one. But it was all these big artists, and it was a fundraiser, and Springsteen was on there with his, Santa Claus is coming to town, etc.
Merry Christmas, baby.
Yeah. Sting did a cover of I Saw Three Ships, and I love. There are too many to count, to be honest with you, especially in our final 30 seconds. But I think
the Neil Diamond album, the best. Santa Claus is coming to town. Come on now. Santa Claus is coming. He hits the notes perfectly. I think Neil Diamond Christmas album 1992 has got to be up there. And I think the Beach Boys, Little Saint Nick.
Little Saint Nick. All right, Tony, we're out of time. Thank you so much. Safe travels back.
Sir.
We can't wait to see you. Fox 5 News at 10. The latest on that breaking news and more coming up in moments. Have a great weekend, everybody.